Edition of the Buddy Martin Show, Meldon Law Monday. Tonight, coming to you live from this district in beautiful Ocala. And we're here for a couple of days. We've been staying with my sister-in-law, Nell, and now we're here with my stepson, Tyler, in beautiful Fort King in a bed and breakfast Airbnb. And you see it? This is what it looks like. Pretty nice. Be here for a couple of days and headed to Gainesville, take care of business. Hope you have recovered, and that's what it was, a recovery. My goodness gracious. How hard is it to get the Gators over the hump? That was a tough one. Told you it was going to be a hard one, but thought the Gators might prevail. But I got to be telling you, you had to be biting your nails. So I was biting mine. It was a white knuckle flight all the way as Florida holds on to defeat UConn. Despite all the obstacles, brilliant play down the stretch. Walter hit a big shot, which turned things around. They had to hold on for dear life at the end, and we'll talk about that tonight. Shane Matthews will be joining us here shortly, and also after that, we'll be talking to Franz Beard and Scott Carter, if all goes well here on the home front. So we invite you in to talk with us and give us your comments. Love to hear where were you when it all happened. What kind of shaking was going on in your house? Because there's a lot of it around Gator Nation. I thought whenever they got that 3-pointer at the end that Gator Nation sort of upchucked all at once. But a great win for the Gators. How sweet it is to be going back to the Sweet 16. That's correct. Shane Matthews is standing by. He'll be next right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Come and join us and tell your friends and neighbors to join us also and talk about it.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Hey, we're back. Meldon Law Monday. Buddy Martin coming to you from the historic district in beautiful Ocala, where we're waiting Thursday night's game. True TV. That has an odd ring to it. But, hey, life is good these days, and it's March Madness, and you still got your team playing. What a game. I mean, we all sweated bullets on that one for sure. It was a game that looked like Florida had in hand and didn't. And then for a while there, UConn was calling the shots. UConn led for a long period of time. And I believe I know what happened in the last 5 minutes. But, let's ask this guy. He watches a lot of basketball. He's an expert. I'm sure he thought the same thing. He'll tell us what he thought. Shane Matthews, good evening to you, buddy. It was a tough one over UConn.
Well, I think UConn showed who they are. They probably have the best coach in college basketball, whether you like him or not. He had a tremendous game plan. UConn had a lot of injuries during the season, and they were back at full force. And I thought UConn's plan was fabulous and frustrated the heck out of us. But we made enough plays there late in the game to pull it out.
It seems like that depth does eventually pay off. When you keep throwing those guys at them, every guy can play, can score and play defense. And when you got to put your legs to work a full 40 minutes to play Florida because they keep coming at you in waves. There's an old saying that tired legs will make you shoot the ball badly. And I don't know if that didn't happen to UConn. They shot the ball good, but at that 4-minute mark, it kicked in again. And suddenly Florida's defense turned up a notch as well. And yet I thought at the end they might have given it back away after having a game in hand and unfortunately making a bad decision to do what they did. So all things considered, great win by Florida. I think they might have learned a few things about themselves, but the play that I focus on, and I want to get yours, is when Florida went to the foul line late in the game with only a few seconds to go and missed both foul shots. And Elijah Martin came roaring down the court, took over, went up, leapt up and got that basketball and took that rebound down. I think that the ferocity with which he played was inspirational. And I think that's what that excited his teammates as well. So Walter Clayton had a good night, had stretches. The Hornets good. They beat him up pretty good. He scored 23 and gave us advance on to San Francisco.
Yeah, man, that's that game will have no bearing on the next game. It's just like I said, you're playing the two-time defending champs. I thought UConn had us on the ropes. We found a way to win. I think offensively, we're fortunate UConn missed a bunch of shots early in the game that were wide open. They run good sets, got guys open. We were having issues when we were switching. But that's basketball. And, we got Maryland on deck. They're a very good team, have a lot of highly touted players. But I like our chances against them. I think we match up better against them than we do UConn or Colorado State if they would have won the game. So, all the tournament is about surviving and advancing.
Mm-hmm. I like that little Colorado State team, and I had an interest in that. My family is very, very close and attached to Colorado State. My daughter and her husband both graduated from Colorado State, big Rams fans. That's a nice little team, and I like that guy, Medved. He's a good coach. Or he may be going to Minnesota. Did he take the job?
Did. Yeah, he did take it.
Yeah. So, but I like what they did, and they were fun. And that was a well executed play to beat him. That kid, he will be always remembered. Derek Queen, right? They'll never forget that name. Just like in the annals of Florida basketball, people won't forget certain names. He had a plan. I'm sure you heard by now this old story that the coach called a timeout and they had 3.6 seconds of who wants the ball. And Derek Queen said, "I'll take the MF of the ball. Give it to me." He got it and he shot. And it was well contested by Colorado State too. So tough loss for the Rammies. Big win for Maryland. Now Florida is a 6.5-point favorite over Maryland on Thursday night in San Francisco. Your thoughts?
That was a very good game. I watched the majority of it. Some people think the kid traveled. I don't know. I mean, it was a good play. But Maryland's won a bunch of games. They have a really good point guard. It's going to be a great matchup between him and Walter Clayton. Just got to find a way to win the basketball game. That's all that matters.
What were the 2 or 3 plays that defined the Florida game for you, Shane?
Well, I think Walter Clayton, I don't know why he didn't shoot more early in the game. He'd be wide open and he'd try to get too many other people involved. He took over the game when we needed it. The one play that I was basically said, this play is going to cost us. It was a 5-point swing when Elijah Martin had a breakaway dunk, but he jumped too far and missed it. Foul, come down. They knocked down a 3-pointer. It was a 5-point swing. I thought that was it. But we fought hard. And like I said, I thought Walter made some tremendous plays. Obviously, Elijah Martin made some plays. I thought Condon didn't play that great. I mean, he's had a great year, but he kind of got pushed around by UConn, the physicality. And he'll need to play better for us against Maryland.
I agree. And Handlow didn't do a whole lot of either. He wasn't a factor in it. But you're right. Physically, it was a tough game. So, all right, so they get 7 in the Sweet 16. 7. Now, people who talk about they had more losses last year, folks, they got more teams. They're going to have more wins. They're going to have more losses because they're 14
Well,
teams.
the teams that we felt like we're going to advanced. And, you know, some people may say Ole Miss surprised them, which most people do. I had them going to the Sweet 16 in my bracket, but all the other ones were high seeds. So
Auburn, Florida, which we think are the 1-2. Arkansas was a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Cal said this is the most enjoyable season he'd ever had as a coach.
Well, it may be the most impressive job he's done as a coach. I mean, starting the season 0-5, and you know, they're still not a great shooting basketball team, but they're making some shots when they need them. But they're finding ways to win, and tip your hat to them.
A lot of injured players this year too, Shane. I mean, a lot of injured players. They kept on going. So very well, good coaching job by Coach Cal. So let's talk about Walter's incredible three-pointer he put up late in the game. I think he put him up about 5. Where will they go down in the annals of great shots? Now, I thought about Mike Miller's shot against Butler or Chris Chios's shot at the Garden, but I think those two are still in a category by themselves. And the reason I think was that Clayton's shot was not a walk-off. Those guys had walk-off shots. Where would you rank that shot by Clayton?
Well, it's not just one shot; it's multiple shots he made.
I mean, in terms of one shot, that one killer three-pointer late in the game that he made was huge.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it. I felt like he made 3 or 4 shots there in the last few possessions that were crucial. Yeah. If we don't make those, we probably lose. But yeah, I've said all along for over a year now, I feel like he's the best player we've ever had. I get in arguments all the time on my show about it. Nobody will change my opinion. I think he's the best we've ever had.
Well, I've seen them all, and I can't argue with you on that, what I've seen so far.
And I'm referring to the best that I've seen since I became a Gator in 1988.
Right. I've seen them all pretty much, and the reason he's the only All-American they've ever had, which is bizarre.
Well, sometimes I think we've had other All-Americans in multiple other sports, and you may have just come along at the wrong time when there may be a generational type player or somebody that wins some type of award that doesn't allow that person to be an All-American. Yeah. You know, I think there's probably other Gator basketball players that are worthy of that award. And like I said, for whatever reason, they didn't win it. But I just think what he's done, he scored over 2,000 points in his college career. I mean, he's a phenomenal shooter of the basketball.
Yeah, he is. He can leap a little bit too.
He's extremely athletic. I don't think people realize how athletic he is.
Yeah. North Florida Bears says Condon didn't let scoring affect his play. Had a great defense play at the end, and that got the dunk. He did his job of screening for Walter. Great guy show. He did. There's right. A lot of people are talking about that on national media. I know Jay Billis is talking about how they screened out for guys going to the basket and screen their shot blockers, and that was there's some nice screening going on there as well. He may have done some of that, but he was not. You're right. Wasn't one of his best games. Was basically, he just didn't show up a lot. But anyway, I guess we're used to seeing him somewhat dominant. So,
well, the physicality of look. I think people, just because I think UConn lost 10 games this year, and like I said, a lot of their star players, especially Diarra, who was one of their star guards, was out a lot this year. Mm-hmm. I think people just thought because they lost 10 games they're not very good. Dude, the mentality, the program that they built there. I said this on my show. The premier basketball program in America today is Connecticut. Hands down. And so I think they showed what they're all about, the name on the jersey, and they came out and they played hard. And but the Gators found a way to win. But I think when you think of we knocked off the 2-time defending champs, and it feels good. But I think they're the premier basketball program in America right now.
Well, you get some argument on that, especially after this season. But I give Kim.
But buddy, they've won back to back, and they've won more national titles. I'm not talking about just this year. I'm talking about the body of work.
You're talking about whether or not they're. I know, I understand, but and what hurts him is his conduct, and he didn't help himself any again. I know it. He's still a great coach, but you just can't act like that and be considered.
Well, you can't. He acts terrible, but it's like I said. If he's your coach, you have no problem with it. If we don't like it how he acted. I definitely don't. But he's a heck of a basketball coach. You can't take that away from him.
Well, I know. Let's make the obvious comparison. I might have done this already. Spurrier. He was the most hated man in college football at his peak, certainly in the SEC, and he did his things to, say things, rile people up, but never did he walk off of a field and say, I hope they don't F you like they F'd us. That's a horrible thing to say, and bad for coaching, bad for him. So, yeah, I agree. Larry Gross says he acts like a bully. He does. I think he's just about lost it this year. I saw an interview on him a little later on after the game, and he says he in a way he can't wait to go back to normal in the off season. He said a guy like me has no business in ringing bells on Wall Street and throwing out first pitches, and so I think he wants to back that semi-anonymity because it's not fun up there at the top, especially when you've got a big mouth and you say things that you shouldn't say. But I give him full credit as a coach. I just think it hurts him a good deal when he does that. All right, Shane, what's the latest? I heard this guy Pegler is back as the coach. Have you heard about this?
Say that one more time.
Pegler, the coach. Yeah.
For the Gators?
Yeah, he's back, apparently. I just read that on Twitter a minute ago. I asked Scott, William Pegler returning to Billy Napier's staff, according to one report. So I don't know what position just yet. It hasn't been designated. Football's been under the radar, Shane. It's time to start talking a little football at some point.
I mean, I guess, but I don't know what you're going to get out of spring football practice. That's
information.
I guess. I've never understood in today's world. I just think it's, you get to the young guys get acclimated to what college football practices are like, but I don't know how much you can learn from it.
Well, in the information business, you take it where you get it. And, you don't get a whole lot in the fall. A lot of times the best interviews you get and what you learn is in the springtime. People talk more openly. But anyway, that's part of it. And I think there's still certain people who think it's a pilgrimage back to campus, to go back to campus and go to a ball game. Certainly plenty of those. Although baseball, I dare say what's happened to that team, Shane.
Well, they're struggling. I mean, they've played the number 1 team and the number 3 team in America. Let's call it as it is.
They haven't won a game in the conference, and they did
right. But they played two of the best teams in America.
But you know what? They're not ranked in the top 25. When's that happen?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I just they got pitching issues.
Injuries to the pitchers.
Yeah, I mean it's not a good start.
Catch me up on softball.
They were off this week. They're back in action this week
against Texas to salvage that series.
Yep. Hopefully they'll get their star pitcher back. I don't know when she's going to come back, but maybe with the week off, she'll be back this weekend.
Yeah. So what bits of intel, I know you do play golf with people who know, are you picking up about Billy Napier these days? Saw pictures of him hitting a softball, but went out against the softball team. Talk to me about Napier, what you're hearing about him, if anything changed, if you think, if anything about the injury situation to DJ. What do you got?
I've heard absolutely nothing, buddy. I haven't heard anything about football practice, quite honestly. The people I play golf with don't have anything to do with football.
Well, I don't know. You're my guy. I could go to you for football.
I'm just telling you, I know nothing. Nothing.
Just turn it off during the season and not even think about it, or what?
Say again?
You just turn it off during when it's out of football
Yeah,
season?
I'll get concerned about football, once they crank up in August. Like I said, spring practice just does not do much for me. Especially when your quarterback's not practicing.
Yeah, I hear a lot of talk about LSU, what they're doing in the portal. He's really wanting to make a statement, obviously. And right now, as it stands, I think nothing's changed about where we expect these Gators to be. We're still, I think we're talking in the 8-9 win range if things go normal. And of course, early on, there'll be a couple of challenges, but this team, if it gets better during the end of the year, we're looking at 8 or 9, maybe 10 wins. Shane, is that too optimistic?
I think everybody's optimistic at this point in time of the year. All I care about is I think it's very important that in November we are in the conversation of possibly making the playoffs. I think that's imperative.
Mm-hmm. The program going the right way?
Well, if you're in the talks, yes. If you're not, it's not.
Yeah. All right, so let me just tell you folks about our sponsors here. Meldon Law, of course, Meldon Law Monday. You can check them out anytime. Go to their website. They give away a lot of good stuff on their Facebook page. I'm going to be having dinner with Jeffrey tomorrow night over at Steve Spurrier Ground Grill, catching up with all he's got going on, him and Patricia. He'll have his podcast there. And they're expanding. They really have been doing a lot of business, according to what Jeffrey said. A lot of business. And they've got those offices now in Lake City and going in, and of course, in Gainesville and Ocala and Wilson. And people are starting to realize that when they want good advice on things, legal matters around here, they go to Meldon Law, where they don't back down from anything. And they'll take your case. There's a pretty good chance you're going to win it. The people, I've got one pending with them right now. I've been very happy so far. Or if one of those people who have a case that you're not happy with, you want to get another opinion, like they say in medicine, a second opinion, then you can do that. They'll listen to what you got to say, and they think it's worthy, they'll let you know. So, Meldon Law, they won't back down. Shane, who else who do you like in the field besides Florida and Auburn?
Well, Duke is the tallest team in America with the best player in America. So obviously Duke is in the mix. I'm trying to think of who else is in the Sweet 16. I mean, obviously Tennessee can win this thing. Alabama can win this thing. It would not shock me if 4 teams are in San Antonio, all from the Southeastern Conference.
Well, they got 7. We had an over-under challenge. I think Scott was part of that too. We tried to decide how many would be left at 32, how many at 16, how many at 8, how many at 4. Good evening to Scott Carter. How you doing, everybody?
Hey, guys. How are you? I remember that challenge. I think I picked 6, so I was one off.
I think I did too, pick 6. Shane, you remember what you picked? You had that challenge.
I don't have a clue.
Yeah, Shane picked 1, so he was way off.
If I'd picked anything, I probably picked all of them to advance because I'm a SEC homer.
I think that, and then we had. I think my next level was I had 4 of the 8. I think. You remember what you had, Scott? How many of the 8?
I think I had 3.
And I had 2 for the last 4. I know for sure. I think you.
I had Auburn.
I think we had the same card from there on. Scott, what about you, Shane? Did you have out of the Final 4? How many did you have of S from the SEC?
I don't know about on your show, but on my bracket, I have 4 SEC teams in the Final 4.
At 3? How many?
4.
In top 8?
I have 4 teams playing in the Final 4 from the South.
All 4 of them? Well,
I don't know. I don't remember about your show, buddy. I'm just going by. I took my phone and my little bracket challenge, It took me about a minute to click all the buttons. And I was like, what the hell? I have Florida winning the national title, beating a bunch of SEC teams in the Final Four.
Well, what do you think so far? It was quite a game on Saturday there. Scott and nail biter and a white knuckler and all that, and man, big win. But that's a hard. That's collective. That's bad on the cardiac crowd from the Gators. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean that kept you on the edge of your seat. And to be honest with you, buddy, I was telling Shane earlier. I think I was doing the kind of instant recap to help Chris out while he's up in Raleigh, and I was already writing they lost because I just didn't feel good about those last 4 or 5 minutes, and then they just turned it on like that. Man, Walter Clayton showed you why he's the first team All-American, and you've got to have a guy like that and do those things to have a team that wins a national championship. And I think Clayton, not that he had anything else to show anybody, but he showed how fearless he is in those big moments. And those are the kind of players you love to have on your team because they're the difference makers. And, they really needed him down the stretch. And he had 13 points in the last 8 minutes. And I really think, if it wasn't for Walter Clayton, they obviously don't win that game yesterday. So, yeah, huge win. And I think that if Florida does end up winning this thing, buddy, that we might look back on that and say this is the toughest game they had during the stretch. It's going to be hard for them to have another game that tough unless they go to overtime against Duke or Auburn or somebody. But that was a heck of a test to get by.
We're kind of all suspicion that might happen. A team that is the kind of team, but I'm telling you, I've never seen. Every loose ball went to Connecticut. Now, granted, sometimes they earned it. A lot of times they didn't. The ball just went to them. Nothing seemed to be going right for Florida in terms of breaks. Walter Clayton obviously kept them in the game. But the one play that stood out in my mind was a rebound by Elijah Martin on the 2 missed free throws. Got the rebound. That was, you talk about ferocity. He wanted that basketball. He was getting that basketball. And that, to me, was an inspiration to everybody.
Yeah, I thought that was the one where you could take a little bit of a breath, even though you knew the game still had a few moments to go. That was an 8-point lead there. And to compare that where they were 2 or 3 minutes earlier in the game off the clock, it was like a 180, man. And but yeah, Martin's been that guy all year. They brought him in for that toughness, for that leadership. And I think he does give them an edge that maybe they needed. And I don't know if you guys saw the post-game locker room video. Did you see him headbutt Ty Golden?
I did. Yeah.
It's like, man, the dude had the look on his face. If he's coming at me like that, ready to headbutt, I'm probably at least going to grab a football helmet.
I saw some video on him today of the football player. He's pretty darn good. He catches the ball really well, too. He can run the ball. He was quite a player out of Mississippi. Meridian, did they have a good team, Shane, when you were living out there? Meridian?
He's from a really small school.
Okay, not one. The Meridian has small schools. Is that what it is?
No, he's from South Pike, I think. It's a really small rural area.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was going to ask this question when as soon as Franz jumped in for a minute, and maybe he'll pop on here in the last couple of minutes. But when you look at the shot, I guess we could put it down to one shot. I guess that one shot by Walter Clayton Jr., the three-pointer he made, which was not an easy shot. He got off and made. They put them up, was it 6 or 5? I've forgotten, late in the game. And really sort of turned the game around almost, although the stupid foul later on negated it. That won't go down in the annals with the other great shots, I don't think. If you look at Mike Miller's shot against Butler, which was pretty well famous, and Chris Chiozza's shot in the guard, which is fantastic. And I don't think you can compare the three of them. I don't think. And I got a reason why. You guys agree?
Well, yeah, I think those two other shots you're talking about, they were the decisive shots at the end of the game. That one still had a couple minutes to go, but when he pulled up for that three, to give them a 3-point. They had a 3-point cushion, and when he took that shot, I don't know. I mean, he wasn't really square to the basket, and he just kind of jumped up and got squared in the air and nailed it. But I mean, you missed that shot, and Connecticut gets the rebound. I mean, it's a whole different game. But when he made that shot, I mean, it also, I mean, everything just swung in Florida's favor. So it will certainly go down as one of the most memorable shots in postseason history for the Gators. But yeah, I agree with you. It's not going to be at the top there with those other two.
Scott, Shane said earlier he made a lot of shots. He did make a lot of shots.
Well, he basically took over the game.
Yeah, he did.
When we needed it, he's like, I'm taking every shot. And I wish I'm different than a lot of people, I guess. I think he doesn't shoot enough.
Yeah. Well, writers like to put it down to one shot, 1 second, one whatever, you know. And I just wondered what you thought of that shot. And I think really, to be honest with you, I believe that's why it won't be ranking, because it was not a deciding shot. It was not a buzzer beater, right?
No, but he took over the game.
Yeah, for sure. So good evening to Franz. We're back from Raleigh. Franz, good evening to you. We're having a discussion about the shot that Walter Clayton Jr. made, a 3-pointer late in the game that turned it around, comparing it to the two most famous shots, Chris Chioza in the Garden and Mike Miller Butler. And we said we don't think it will rank or with them as great shots. What do you think?
Well, it's a great shot, but Mike Miller's shot put Florida was a buzzer beater that put Florida into the Final Four. Chris Chioza's shot put Florida into the Elite Eight. So hard to compare the two of them. But I will say this: his performance as a whole to help bring Florida back and really put the nail in the coffin of UConn was memorable, and maybe as good a clutch performance as the Gators have ever had in a game that of that magnitude.
Do you remember we did this with you on last week, how many teams we have from the SEC at each interval? Obviously 32, 16, 8, and 4. Remember how many you had, Franz? 16?
I had 8, and they got 7.
Okay.
The Aggies are the only team. The Aggies are the team that let me down. I thought the Aggies would make it, and they laid an egg.
I didn't have Ole Miss in mind. I had the Aggies. How about at 8? I mean, you got.
Yeah, I think.
What'd you say?
Well, you're going to get one for sure out of Tennessee, out of the Tennessee.
I want to know how many you picked last week when we talked about this.
I picked 4.
4, okay. How about 4? How about out of the 4? You picked 2 or 3 at the Final Four?
I picked all 4.
Well, you and Shane. There you go. So you had Florida winning also too?
Yes, I do. And having seen Duke, I think Alabama will beat them.
Shane, you had Florida, right?
Yep, I have Florida playing
Auburn.
I don't even know who's on what side. I had Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, and Auburn, I think, in the Final Four.
Okay. That'll be Auburn, I think.
It just means more.
Yeah. I made you have.
I just had Auburn and Florida. I think were my 2 in the Final Four, and I'm still alive in that pick. I'm not alive in many others, but I'm still alive in that one.
Yeah. Okay, guys, if you couldn't pick Walter Clayton and you had to pick a player right now as the MVP of the Florida squad, who would it be, Shane? Take a minute. Franz?
Elijah Martin.
Scott?
Yeah, mine might be. I mean, when you can't go wrong there. I think the things that Elijah brings, Will Richard brings a little bit different type of things to the table. It would be one of those two. I'm a big guard guy.
Well, Elijah Martin yesterday had 15 points early on in the game, and then late in the game made that big rebound, and he kind of spared them whenever Walter didn't get his shots off. Scott, who would you have?
I got to go with Martin too. I mean, I could be a contrarian and pick Thomas Hawk or something, but I think without Martin, I don't think this team is still playing. I think his leadership, his toughness, and you look at that game yesterday, guys. I mean, those three guards all had different phases where they really mattered. Whereas early it was Martin, and then Richard only had 2 points at halftime, but he had a spurt there when the game looked like it was in the balance where he kept Florida in there with a few buckets. And then, of course, we're talking about Walter Clayton taking over. So all three of those guys are great players. But if it wasn't Walter, I'd have to go with Elijah with the nod over Will. I mean, both guys are kind of indispensable in what Golden likes to do. But Martin's just, I thought he made a difference from game one.
No, I'll tell you what, he had 4 spectacular dunks in the ball game. You're talking about a 6'2" guy. Had 2 in the first half. One on the first play of the game when he just blew by everybody and dunked. Then he had the alley oop, and then 2 dunks there at the end of the game. He gets things done in a very spectacular way sometimes. Whether it's grabbing a rebound, making a steal, hitting a big shot. Will Richard is indispensable to this team. There's no question about it, because he's 6'4" and he plays 6'7", 6'8". But Elijah Martin, as we saw yesterday, he spent time in the second half on Caravan, and Caravan was 6'8" and 225, and Elijah just took him on and says, "Okay, fine. You're big. I'm strong." And this is a guy that brings a different mentality to this team. And I think you guys pointed out something earlier is that he brings toughness that is contagious. Last year, they were tough at times. Zion Pullen, I thought, was a very tough guy, but they didn't. I don't know. It just wasn't contagious. The way that Elijah Martin brings it, nobody wants to get shown up by him, I guess. He's the old man, and nobody wants to get shown up by the old guy.
All right, guys, last thing for most of you. Well, let's see, Franz, you got to stay in and shop for a minute. Let's let the old guy go to bed, get his milk and cookies. Yes, get tomorrow. Has a big show tomorrow with the star guests on it to be wide awake. In a short, terse 15, 20, 30 second, is Scott, is Todd Golden a better coach now than he was 2 weeks ago? If so, why? And what do you think this being battle tested will do for him? Now he's going back to where he made his fame in San Francisco. Is this guy getting better, and can he win it all, Shane?
Me? Yeah, they can win it all. I think Todd's a phenomenal coach. I think he's got a great staff. He's losing 2 of the coaches to go be head coaches, so he's got to replace them. I think it's the offensive coordinator and the defense coordinator. But that happens when you have success. So, look, this team we've talked about it at length. They're deep. They're talented. They can shoot. I still today, as I said back again at the Tulane game at the Gasparilla Bowl, in my opinion, it's the best basketball team the Gators have ever had. Doesn't mean they're going to win it, but I still think it's the best team they've ever had.
Franz, talk about also who they're losing.
Well, they're losing John Andrzejczyk, who's going to be the head coach at Campbell. It was interesting because the Campbell's about 30 miles south of where we played over the weekend. But it's a school in the Big South Conference, and only team in college sports named the Camels.
The Campbell Camels.
The Campbell Camels greatest player in their school history. They have some guy they say almost that would have broken Pete Maravich's record. Of course, he did it in 5 years, and Pete only played 3. But they really the best player they ever had was a guy named Cordell Wise, and they were NAIA then, and he's a kid off of streets of Philadelphia that took little old Campbell College to the NAIA national championship game. So, but it's a good little old school, good starting place for a coach that has a soft resume, let's just say, until he came to Florida, and that he's not been an assistant coach at big jobs.
But
Kevin,
one big but. They sure got to go with the hump.
Yeah. Okay. I'm wacka wacka wacka. Okay.
I don't think Franz was expecting that from me, buddy.
I wasn't, but you know, we got it. Kevin Hovde, I think, runs really, really intricate multiple screen sets.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets shots for his guys, and that's what's important. Be interesting to see what happens, who takes over that role. Jonathan Sapphire is going to take over the role that was held by John Andrzejczyk. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing who replaces Kevin, because Kevin, like I said, he runs really intricate stuff.
He's fantastic.
And they're going to be a different team next year. New guys on the perimeter. And you don't have proven guys that go into these shooters comas. And all 3 of these guys do that. Okay. So I think they're going to be more of an inside oriented team next year. And they're going to have 5 big guys. Big Ollie is going to play next year. I keep hearing that he is really going to play next year. It was interesting in the locker room after the game. Low ceiling, yes. Ollie's head is like that much below the ceiling. I mean, he had to duck in the door and everything like this. And I must have had a dozen writers who come up to me and said, I stood beside him. That is the biggest human being on the planet.
That story about him was he didn't need a ladder to cut down the nets. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. People who were thinking he's just nothing more than just this big goon, you know, who I've been told is a legit 7'10" and a half in his bare feet. They list him 7'9", but I understand he's 7'10" and a half, and he's still growing. He doesn't shave yet. He's still growing. Once you start shaving, your growth time is done. But
because he's got to shave tomorrow morning for his show.
People watch him, buddy. People watch this guy. He's got this little baby hook, and I promise you, there is nobody on the planet that's going to stop that.
It's going to be exciting to watch, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let me get Scott's quick answer and get Shane to bed. Scott, respond to the golden question: how much better can he be? How good of a coach is he now? And what has this taught him so far?
Well, I mean, I think he's obviously an excellent coach. You're not getting this team to where it is if you don't know how to coach. I do think I'm not going to say yesterday was his finest hour. I thought Hurley outpointed him in a few things early. I just think the Gators pulled some things out, and then won the game.
You got schooled a little bit. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I mean, Hurley coached a good game. There's no doubt about it. And I think Todd will probably learn something from that game yesterday. But I mean, if you're a Florida fan and you look around the country, you can which coach would I like to be my coach right now? You know, X and O. Todd Golden's right there at the top of my list. I mean, I think he's only just starting, and he's got the Gators here in the hunt. You know, Sweet 16 and the third year in the program. What was it? Fourth year Billy took him to the Final Four.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you guys, by the way, read the comment that Danny Hurley made about the game. He said, we played them the only way we thought we could to beat them, and that was to try to turn it into a legitimate rock fight. And for 34 minutes, I thought they did a pretty good job of it. But at some point in time, the Gators are kind of like, remind me of the way George Foreman was. George Foreman would sit there.
R.I.P. to George Foreman, by the way.
Yep, and he'd just throw the gloves up, and people would pound on him. They beat that big belly, and they'd pound on it, and he'd just kind of stand there. And then all of a sudden, George Foreman would say, enough, and then do one punch.
Ali, that was Ali's rope-a-dope, is what that was. All right, Shane, you go ahead. Thank you, buddy. Talk to you in the morning.
All right, gentlemen. Good night.
See you, Shane.
So, guys, stand by while I tell you about Titan MRI imaging. It's acquired Highfield MRI. Joe Colorio started Highfield in 1997. I want to make sure I say that. Colorio, say it right. He's back. Titan MRI and Imaging now has 3 locations, 2 in Gainesville with Park Avenue location, and now Millennium Center. Also, they're serving Columbia County and all Lake City. In Valdosta, Georgia, Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service, accept insurance through their convenient self-pay options. They offer MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, and ultrasounds. Easy scheduling with lots of options, including even Titan MRI and Imaging. Check them out. All right, guys. In the final few minutes, let's go back over the game and talk about what flaws we have seen, and everybody's got them that have to be corrected before Florida can get to have the crown. There's made some mistakes. Shane said he didn't think that Walter was shooting the ball enough. Obviously, there was a few hiccups here and there on defense. And the thing, if you told me Florida was going to get out-rebounded and have a terrible night at the foul shot line and turn the ball over that many times, I would have told you there's no way they were going to beat UConn's friends.
They didn't get out-rebounded. They out-rebounded UConn by 5.
Well, I mean, offensively, they didn't dominate like they used to do.
Well, UConn had 9 offensive rebounds in the first half, and they only had 5 in the second. Yeah. They did not have an offensive rebound in the last 10 minutes of the ball game.
Okay, so they didn't have their spectacular rebounding game.
You get 40 rebounds on a team like that, you're doing a good job. I mean, I'll agree with you on one thing. In the first half, I thought the Gators were lazy rebounders, and I really believe they were lazy rebounders. I'll agree with you on that part. But I thought what comes down to is what you do in the last 10 minutes of that ball game. In the last 10 minutes of that ball game, Florida got every tough rebound there was. And I thought
the putbacks, they were getting. Jimmy that gets those putbacks, they were having to put the ball back up 3 or 4 times and couldn't make the shots. I mean, look, this has been a strength of the team. I'm looking for ways to see improvements the next couple of weeks. They've certainly got to do a better job there, and certainly can't be turning the ball over that many times.
No, you can't. They turned it over 9 times in the first half, gave up 9 offensive rebounds in the first half. In the second half, they gave up 5 offensive rebounds and only turned it over 3 times. But again, look at the last 10 minutes of the ball game. 0 offensive rebounds given up, 0 turnovers in those last. There was 1, and that was because Will Richard got flipped over, and the ball came out and so forth like that. And it should have been a foul, wasn't? But they decided before that game began that this was going to be a very physical ball game. They let stuff go the whole ball game. Chris Spears has a great picture of Chris Richard trying to drive, and Caravan's got 2 hands on him like this. I mean, just literally grabbing him like this. And I remember that play, and it was right in front of me, and there wasn't a call made. But this is the way the game. It's hard to argue. I thought the officials weren't good, but it's hard to argue with the fact that they were the same the whole ball game. There wasn't a real a real change in it. And when your officials are consistent with whatever style they have, you can't blame them, because it's up to the coach then and the other team to adjust, as coaches and so forth. UConn had a terrific game plan because they could not match Florida in so many areas. So what did they do? They decided to turn it into a fist fight. This was bring your brass knuckles and your switchblade kind of game. And I was, I know a lot of people today are really mad with Danny Hurley. I like him personally. I mean, I really do. I know him and I like him. I like the way that he coaches. He gets a lot out of his kids, and he's willing to take the heat for coming up with a game plan that turns a game into a fist fight. He took the heat, and he's not going to back down from it. He said, "This is what we had to do to try to win the game."
Scott?
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking about, what Florida has to improve on, I mean, there's certainly a lot of things. But I think more than anything, guys, everything we're talking about here, I think it all goes back to what you guys have pointed out. I mean, this was Danny Hurley influence game. This is a guy who's a hell of a basketball coach. Remember, I mean, the Lakers offered him the job last summer, and he decided to go back to UConn. So you don't get the offer from the LA Lakers to be their head coach unless you know what you're doing. And I think Florida, from the first few minutes of that game, to be honest with you, I think they were a little nervous. It looked like everybody but Elijah Martin. I think the big stage, I think the two-time defending national champion, I think the style that you guys are talking about, I think it took them a little while to kind of find their footing, if you will. And then they had to fight through everything that UConn was throwing at them. But the weirdest stat of the game, guys, was that first half stat where they had 9 turnovers, and UConn didn't convert any of those points into a single point. Blew my mind. How often do you see that in basketball, Franz?
Well, you don't, and you make a great point with that. Florida played a great defensive basketball game. I mean, the Gators really played a great defensive basketball game, but here's what you look at: nine offensive rebounds and 9 turnovers. So you were 0-18 in scoring opportunities. And that's the only way you can look at a turnover is you missed a scoring opportunity. An offensive rebound you give up, you missed a scoring opportunity. You look at 12 missed free throws, 12 missed scoring opportunities, 12 points left on the board. Okay. And then you throw that in. Florida should have won the ball game. If you go by that analytically, Florida should have won the ball game by 25 points. And Florida, I think, is 25 points better than UConn. But the difference is UConn came up with a strategy that worked, and you had officials that were willing to let this strategy play out. And again, I don't blame officials for that, although I think Courtney Green's, I dislike him because he tries to he's a guy that does makeup calls, and I hate officials that do makeup calls. You call the game. Ted Valentine's told me numerous times, you blow calls. Every official blows calls during a game. The idea is to blow as few as possible, but you don't try to make it up, because 2 wrongs never make it right. And Courtney Green spends too much time trying to do makeup calls, but that's him. That's his MO in the game. And I thought the game was called the same way for 40 minutes. So I can't really say that it was bad officiating. I think Florida adjusted to it. But again, the Gators left points. This is a sign of a really good team when you can leave points on the floor and you still win against a really good basketball team. UConn, I promise you, there are out of the last 16 teams, if you let UConn play that schedule of those last 16 teams, they'd be 13-3, 14-2. They'd be that good. They're that good. give the Gators credit for winning a game. And I've told people today on the plane, I said, give the Gators credit for winning a game against a quality team. And at this time of the year, that's what you got to do. You don't sit there and say,
I don't
well,
think anybody's not giving them credit. Give them a lot of credit for it. It's a great win. I think we
yeah,
give them credit. I think they almost let it slip away, but that's the sign of a team that's learning and getting better. When they in situations like that, they learn and get better. And I think they didn't play their best ball, but they won the game.
yeah, you're absolutely right, buddy. Florida had a weekend. I guarantee you that Todd Golden is at practice in the morning, and they will be practicing in the morning, is going to say, guys, we're so much better than what we showed. Now, the next two ball games, we've got to be as good as we are, not just getting by. We got to be as good as we are. And he's got to say,
we just got being the best team. That always doesn't win this time of year sometimes. So you can lose. Here's the final thought. The band K has a thought here. Now, I know we probably won't agree with him, but he makes a good point. If not Clayton, Tommy Hoff was my MVP. What kind of great ball has Tommy Hoff played, Scott? He's been amazing.
Yeah. Again, he's they wouldn't be here without him. I've said that. I think we said that about a few guys, right? But without question, Hawk really stepped up his game when Alex Condon went down with injury. And I think that stretch just showed what kind of potential this guy has. We knew he was a good glue guy, a guy who could come off the bench and give you a lot of hustle rebounds, some hustle baskets. But he took his game to another level during that stretch of the season when the Gators really needed it. And I think the upside for the guy is tremendous. I mean, I think he's an NBA player in my eyes. I think he's an NBA player in most scouts' eyes. So if you're going to vote for him MVP, I mean, he would get some votes on my list. He's not going to be the MVP. I think we've agreed that Clayton and Martin are probably 1 and 2. But I could see anybody giving Thomas Houck a few votes.
Yeah, and when he started missing foul shots, I thought, oh my gosh, this guy, he's golden from the charity stripe. Franz, your thoughts about Tommy Hoff? I know you're a big fan of him.
I love the guy, and I think next year you're going to see him. I think Florida will start Micah and Condon and Houck together. I think Tommy Hawk will go out on the wing, and he will be Will Richard next year. Maybe not quite as quick, but longer, lengthier, and posing problems. I think you'll see him make the progress that we saw him make at the free throw line as an outside shooter next year. He is that good of a student of the game and a hard worker. You tell him what to do, and he just gets out there and does it. And the best part about him is he has the same nice guy attitude. He almost blushes when you praise him for something that he did. He almost blushes. He's just that modest. But that's the private Tommy Hawk. The Tommy Hawk that gets on the floor, teammates say is a beast, and they don't like going against him. They say he is mean, he's nasty. We see the kid that laughs and and blushes when we say something nice about him. Opponents see a guy that comes in there with elbows like razors and strong and will rip the ball out of your hands and so forth like that. I think every team needs a guy like that.
That's how Scott Gardner is. You think he's a nice guy? Well, he gives you an elbow in the mouth, man.
I like the elbow and knee.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, guys, let me close up with this. I'm going to ask you to give me an honest assessment tonight on my talking. Was it okay?
You're talking. What? The sound of your voice?
Just how I was able to talk.
Yeah, came
Have a
off clear to
real-
me.
Okay.
Sounded like Buddy to me, and I've known you for how many 50-something years?
Okay. Well, I had 2 teeth pulled today.
Well,
And the reason I could talk this way is because of Joey Sorrentino. Well, I went to my dentist today. He's been doing work in my mouth. This afternoon, extracted 2 of my teeth and did an unbelievable job. You know how it's like to get those shots.
yeah.
And I call him Mr. Good Hands because he's great at it. You get a little ping once in a while, but not often. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Joey Sorrentino, the former Gator football player, for a great job. If you ever need to go to a dentist, if you can get in, Marion Dental in Ocala, Joe Sorrentino. He didn't pay me to say that, Joey. And of course, he also has a even bigger office in Ladies Lake.
Let me ask you a question. How long before you could drink without the drink coming rolling down your lips? Every time I do the dentist, I come out and I'm so thirsty. I want to drink something, but I can't
you
feel
can't
it.
have straws. You're not supposed to have straws either, when you have infection. Actually, I had a milkshake today, so I did pretty good. So, yeah.
Good for you, buddy.
Dr. Joey. So, hey, guys, you did a great job. Franz, you did a wonderful job. You and Chris Spears did a fantastic job in Raleigh. It was great, and thank you for the coverage. And now you're off to San Francisco.
But I'm not going to leave my heart there. My heart's going with me to San Antonio because I really have a good feeling about this team. They're playing a Maryland team. I think they're going to blow Maryland's doors off. I really do. And Lord have mercy, I will add fuel to that fire. Derek Queen took 5 steps, and there was no call.
They weren't going to call.
I thought that was a travesty because Colorado State deserved to win that basketball.
You thought it was a travesty. How about my daughter and son-in-law who graduated from Colorado State? It's been a long time since they've had any love.
And they lost their coach today to Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you something. Nico's better than that. He should have held out for a better job than that. He really should have. That's Minnesota's a dead end. I mean, you go up there and 8 feet of snow, in the winter, and
that's why people go because they say you can't do it. All right, guys, great job tonight. Got to run here, get some meds for the old mouth. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Franz. Great job again.
Yes, that's me, Franz.
All right, fellas.
Wait a minute. What's your name again? Oh, I thought you were that other guy. Matthews. I'm sorry. Well, I did have a little slip up. I'm going to count them.
Hey, buddy, you're always the best. 50-something years we've been friends, and you always
never last.
You always find a way to deliver. Always
do.
You,
I appreciate it, buddy. Have a good night.
Thanks, now.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up. We're going to tell you about folks at Rinstar and Joe Sorrentino, the father of Joey. I want to say a personal thank you for their support all these years. They have been tremendous in supporting this show for over 6 years. And by the same time, supporting the University of Florida and Gator sports and stuff. And they've been tremendous. Scott Browne and his wife, Mary, and Joe Sorrentino were in high school together. They started Rinstar Medical Research in Ocala, which does wonderful work. They'd like for you to take part in their clinical trials. It helps a lot to learn more about your health, the community's health, the data they get from that, and send it off to some of these big companies and find out more about what needs to be done for our health. So if you get a chance, go to rinstar.net, see what they're running this week on specials in terms of these clinical trials. If you feel so inclined, sign up with them and go take part in one of those. You'll be glad you did because it'll help you, it'll help them, and it'll help our community. Rinstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. All right, folks, let's go wrap this up for the night. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Get your gear on. Get your game face off. Get ready to get Thursday night, 7:30, True TV. Florida versus the Maryland Terps. It's been great. Needs to be a little greater. Take care.